Welcome to this show, the series that we were doing since long on the Central Vista. And as most of our viewers know that we were doing walk the talk along the Central Vista, but after the pandemic, we were
Yes.
unable to walk along the Central Vista, and instead we are using these new logistics of the technology and just trying to understand more about the Central Vista. And now earlier, which was supposed to be just the domain of the architects in the country, that it looked like that only the architects are vociferously opposing the construction of the new parliament. Just for our new viewers who have joined and who are not really aware of what the Central Vista is, the precinct extends from the Rashtrapati Bhavan to through along the Rajpath to the India Gate, and of course it extends to the Yamuna. So today we have Professor A.G.K. Menon. Thank you, Professor A.G.K. Menon, joining us. Professor A.G.K. doesn't require much introduction. He is one of the founding members of INTAC. And we today we are going to discuss about the left out parts of the Central Vista, which we've not discussed in the past, because we have discussed that look, it's an idea which was termed as a fascistic idea. Some said it is not sync with the heritage of our country, and we had historians in our show. But today we are going to discuss something very special, which has not really come to the fore. Thank you, Professor Menon, joining us. And straight away, I mean, if I could ask you one of very simple questions, because I remember you were one of the leading figures in the INTAC and also otherwise to ensure that the precinct of the Central Vista is part of the World Heritage domain or zone. Because I am in Simla. I don't know whether my camera can really shoot the majestic Himalaya just behind me. Yeah, but and I remember we have that heritage track, the World Heritage track from Kalka to Simla. We know the beauty of that, and we know why it is so important to conserve it. So what went wrong, and how do you really view it now?
Okay, let me start off by a bit of an introduction. And that is that the whole idea of
Yes,
heritage.
Professor Menon.
Yeah. Now, what is heritage? Normally, until INTAC was formed, that is in 1984, by and large, most people thought of heritage as monumental. The Taj, Fatehpur Sikri, etc. That was considered architectural heritage. However, after INTAC was formed, we enlarged the scope, the vision, and the idea. Now, it's not as though that we invented something. It's all over the world they consider it. But in India, somehow, we often thought of, or usually thought of heritage as these monuments. And just to give an idea of the scale, ASI was the custodian, government, and they were conserving about 3,600 monuments. And that at once strikes you as an anomaly because, in a country like India, 3,600, there must be something more. Of course, there's something more. But secondly, heritage is not only monuments, heritage is many other things. It could be your Haveli, it could be the natural heritage, it could be your intangible heritage, it could be hundreds of things. But somehow in our minds, that is what got established. And even today, we suffer from it. We somehow feel that the heritage of Central Vista is only North Block, South Block, Rashtrapati Bhavan, etc., which were the monumental buildings. And we cannot look at the Central Vista as anything beyond that. And just to carry that idea a bit forward, right now, if you talk to the architect, he will tell you, but I'm saving the heritage. North Block is saved, South Block is saved, Rashtrapati Bhavan. What are you people complaining about? So this is the huge gap in our imagination. So when we complain that you are destroying Central Vista, they say, my God, we're not. You're just jholawalas just complaining about anything that we do.
Okay.
And we're not destroying it. Look, we saved it. We're not destroying all these things. We are even saving the parliament building. We're building a new top parliament, sure. But the old one is saved. And look, the Central Vista, the Rajpath, trees are there. The landscape is there. What are you complaining about? So you see the gap in our imagination of what is heritage. Now, that's just a brief introduction that we try to open that up. If I focus on Delhi, in Delhi, there were about 170 monuments according to ASI.
Okay.
But when INTAC got into the act, we said, no, there are much more. And we identified 1,200 monuments. And these are minor monuments, other kinds of monuments. It could be in Shahjahanabad, could be Havelis, could be anything. But 1,200, we said, are worth preserving. Why? Because they represent our history. They are evidence of our history. So part of our agenda was that. So in 2000, we got this publication out about the city's heritage. And one of the things that we identified was precincts. And one of the precincts precincts we identified was Shahjahanabad and New Delhi. So those are identified as heritage. Earlier they were not. And again, to emphasize the point, the world, all over the world, there are about hundreds of World Heritage cities, not a single one in India. And then you begin to wonder, you mean to say in India, 5,000 years, we don't have any heritage cities? Obviously, there's a gap in our imagination. Not that we did not have it, but we imagined Varanasi as heritage. We didn't imagine Ujjain as heritage. We didn't imagine Madurai as heritage. And we didn't imagine Lutyens Bungalow Zone as heritage or Shahjahanabad as heritage. And yet, it has all the characteristics, all the evidence of heritage. So in 2000, we published this a book saying the heritage of Delhi, in which these two precincts, there were 6 heritage zones, there were 27 heritage zones, but out of the 27, the master plan of Delhi, when it came out in 2007, accepted 6. They accepted all the 1,200 monuments, saying that yes, Delhi has 1,200 monuments, not just 174 that ASI is saying, but 1,200. But it also, very interestingly, the master plan said that these are heritage. So for the first time, Lutyens Bungalow Zone, Shahjahanabad got a legal notification, the heritage. Now, that was step one. Then in 2013, we approached the government and said, look, it is heritage. The master plan says it's heritage. But according to us, it is world heritage. It is of a category much higher. Just like Taj is India's heritage, but it's also world heritage. So we managed to persuade the government, and it was very difficult because you have to go through the Ministry of Culture, you have to go to ASI, and ASI says, "Hamara kaam kyun badha rahe ho? We can't manage this few number of monuments. You're adding cities to it. Now, how are you going to manage?" Anyway, in all fairness, after a lot of lobbying, they accepted it. And in 2013, the government of India finally sent a dossier, which we prepared, the Intact Delhi chapter prepared, because it's, again, a very technical document that you got to prepare to UNESCO, and it was sent. Uh, in 2014, the Modi government came into the picture. Now, the whole idea is that to them, heritage is politics. And what we are saying is heritage is not politics, heritage is history. We had some good history, some bad history, some history we are ashamed of, some history we are proud of, but heritage is history, and history is history. So we said that, look, this is part of it, but the new government said, no, it is not our heritage, our heritage. And you are naming Shahjahanabad, which is Mughal heritage, and you're naming Lutyens Bungalow Zone, which is colonial heritage. We don't consider it heritage. So they withdrew it. Now, of course, it's a sovereign government, our prime minister, elected, democracy, etc., etc. He has every right to do it, and he did it. Now, that is where matters stands. And it stood until now because this heritage of Lutyens Bungalow Zone and Central Vista is in the UNESCO tentative list. It's not yet accepted because India withdrew it, tentative list. Now that Modi's second term comes in, then they take more action. First action was, of course, withdrawing it. Now they're saying this has to be destroyed because, Babi Masjid has been destroyed. Now these have to be destroyed. And according to me, this entire redevelopment project is a strategy to destroy it. Okay. It is presented as something we are redeveloping, we are upgrading. If you read the bid document.
Professor Menon, if I could just ask you a question, because you brought up a very interesting aspect right from 2000 to 2014, and in 2014 that the government actually was not serious. But did you ever comprehend in 2014 that such kind of redevelopment is going to take place, what you qualify to be the destruction of the heritage?
Okay, now I'll come to the second point. even
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as we said that all this is heritage, it got into the first problem, which is that heritage is something to be protected. And as intact, we were at pains to say in a country like India, we cannot preserve heritage because we don't have the money. We don't have money to eat. How are we going to have money to preserve heritage? So we said that it is not preservation, it is conservation. Conservation means development. And we did many projects, including Varanasi, Bhubaneswar, Ujjain, where we conserved it and developed it. So we said that similarly, Lutyens Bungalow Zone and the Central Vista can be developed. So this is where matters stand. However, that politicians, everyone takes a time to understand it. So in their minds, when we say that it's World Heritage, it means keep it frozen. And we said nothing of the sort. Nothing can remain frozen. Things are evolving. Our needs are changing. And so we have suggested many things that should be done. And in fact, when the design of the project came, I remember talking to the architect and said, look, Mr. Patel, several things can be done. It is not as though we as conservationists are saying nothing should be done. Everything is wrong with your project. We are saying nothing of the sort. We are saying a lot of things can be done. New buildings can be built. All over the world, they've done it.
Okay.
Look at Paris. Look at Paris. They built hundreds of buildings, and it's a World Heritage City. Look at Beijing. Look at the 230 other World Heritage cities in the world. They're all built. None are frozen. Similarly, this does not have to be frozen. But as I told you, the first point I made, the mindset. The mindset somehow is that heritage is something that is frozen and has to be kept frozen. And Intac has been trying very hard to say, no, we cannot afford to do that. It has to develop. So, to answer your question, a lot of things can be done in Central Vista, but it has to be done carefully. And as Intac, we have done over.
So what does that mean? I mean, so what does that mean if you qualify that to be that it has to be done carefully?
Yeah. Now, I'll
I
give you
mean, what does that mean? Yeah.
all I can give you is examples. Say, take Bhubaneswar, for example, old Bhubaneswar. We did the conservation plan for Bhubaneswar, where we showed how the old Bhubaneswar can develop. And we made a whole budget. You have been in the municipality, you know that you work on budgets, you know you work on projects. So if I'm going to conserve, I can't come to you and say, look, I want money for conservation. You say, run along. Where am I going to have money for conservation when I don't have money for roads? I don't have money for sewers and water supply. How am I going to give you money for conservation? Agreed, we said. But give us money for the following projects. And these projects will be done in such a way that it will not destroy heritage. You don't have to break it down. You don't do this. You can do this. A road can be built. It doesn't have to go through the building. It has to go. It can go by the side and conserve it, etc. The many. I mean, we don't want to get into that because of a technical subject. But the
Okay.
point we made is the term we used was the conservation can be development oriented. In other words, the conservation does not have to be preservation oriented, it can be development oriented. And we have said the same thing about Central Vista. When we say Central Vista is World Heritage, I went through all that when I was trying to convince the government that it should be World Heritage. Obviously, these questions came up. Obviously, ASI asked these questions. Obviously, they had all these high-powered committees saying that, look, what are you talking about? You would say we can't do anything here. And I had to convince them that look at this, look at that. It's not my job. I'm not the DDA. I'm not the ASI. I got no authority. I'm just an NGO suggesting this should be done. So, but yet, all I can answer your questions by saying that yes, development can take place in the following way, and I can give you 60, 70 examples where I can show you it can be done and it has been done. So, to answer your second question, a lot of things can be done.
Okay, thanks. Professor AJK, I remember being to Quito, the capital of,
Yeah.
or for the Habitat
Yeah.
3. I
Yeah.
was one of that
Yeah.
part of the delegation. And I remember it's a World Heritage Site, by the way.
Of course.
I mean, I mean, if you go there, I mean, there's a stark distinction between the new Quito and the old Quito, how they have conserved.
Absolutely.
Do you not
Yes.
think, I mean, something of that sort could have been easily imagined? And I mean, if
Of course, it could have been done. For example, take a simple thing like he wants to build a new secretariat for everyone. It didn't
yeah,
have to be Central Vista. It can be anywhere. without the kind of technology. You and I are talking, you are sitting in Simla, I'm sitting in Delhi, we are talking to each other, conducting a business. We are not incapacitated because you're not sitting next to me.
Actually, yeah, true, yeah.
So, the governments can function by anywhere. So the argument I would have used is that, yes, if you want to build a central secretariat, wrong idea, bad idea, agreed. But if you want to do it, build it somewhere else. Build it in Dwarka. Build it in Narela.
Yeah.
Build it anywhere. And create a new city. And if you look at historically, we talk about 7 cities of Delhi. None of them destroyed the earlier city. Even the British did not.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Even,
Could you just explain that? I mean, that's something very interesting. I mean, that all those seven things all those 7 cities that came up.
yeah.
I mean, none actually juxtaposed on the
top.
previous one. Yeah.
This is a peculiar thing about Indian cities, because in most of the world, if you go to London, you'll find layers and layers of cities one above the other. Roman, the Greeks built over the Roman, the others came and built over the Rome, etc., etc. And
Yeah.
you have layers like that. Not in India. In India, somehow we built next to each other. Good, bad. There are other reasons. One reason I can give you in a funny way is that we thought it was bad luck to build on someone else, ruined empires. We also lost this empire. Anyway, be that as it may, we did not. And even the British did not. British did not demolish Shahjahanabad, they built it next to it. Shahjahanabad did not build Tughlakabad, they built it next to it. So this has been a historical precedent. And if Mr. Modi, in his power with 300 plus seats, wanted to do something, he could have built a Modi Nagar in Narela, in Dwarka, in wherever, and made it like others. So in Berlin, they did that. Hitler did that. Mussolini did it. So I'm just saying, if that was a vision, it could have been done. So here, when you say, I want to do it on Central Vista, it is a problematic issue. And as a conservationist, I argue, not as a politician, as a conservationist, I'm saying it's a wrong idea.
Professor Benan, if I could just come back to Intac and the vis-a-vis the Central Vista. I remember Intac had written to the government and the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs at the outset of this project. Have you heard something from them? And I mean, it really jitters me. You see why? Because I find Intac even going down to the level of, say, and not to the level, I mean, but like conserving a temple in Paonta Sahib in Himachal Pradesh. But I haven't heard a word from Intac. Why is it so?
No, I'll answer that question in my own way, not answer directly because that may not sound too good. But you see, when the first designs came out in late November, December, we were horrified. And, I know Bimal Patel. We know Hardeep Puri. We know the government. It's not as though you and I are not familiar with them. We are not strangers. We try to contact them. So, in good faith, we drew up a thing saying that, look, gentlemen, you can do a lot of things, but can we please do it carefully? And we are there to help you. Why? Because you don't know Central Bank. We have done a dossier on it. We've got enormous amount of data. We've got a whole lot of surveys. We've got a whole lot of issues. And what I even told them was that, can you please renominate this place as Central Vista and as World Heritage and still build your buildings? That will be a lesson. If you can, then you'll break this taboo we have in India that we cannot develop a World Heritage site. So I'm saying, here's your challenge. I told them. I told Bimal Patel that. I told Bimal Patel, I said, look, you want to do this, you are an architect, you want your project, have it. But if you want to do this, you'll have a feather on your cap. You'll have done it the right way. But of course, we heard nothing. We heard nothing from Mr. Puri. We heard nothing from Mr. Bimal Patel. We heard nothing from the powers that be. And it's not as though we don't know them. It's not as though we are strangers. Intac has quite a few ministries on their governing council. But there is some taboo that you are not allowed to interfere in this project. And that bothers me. So we contacted them. They didn't say. And So when you say that Intact didn't, Intact did, but in a very, shall we quote, civilized, unquote way. We did not go around shouting at them. We try to negotiate with them. And as I said, someone like Bimal Patel, I know. I don't have to shout at him. If I were to argue with you, I'll argue with you. Why would I want to shout at you? So I said, we can negotiate this. But no, there was absolutely no response.
Okay, Professor Menon, I think there's something very interesting that, I mean, of course, it's an international precedent that it's not just the conservation of the building, but also the usage of the building, for a particular use. And now all of a sudden we're finding the north and the south block would be museums. And then even the parliament was supposed to be a museum in India. So how really, I mean, understand, I mean, what do you think about it?
You see, the degrees and degrees of conservation. Ideal would be preserve it. But as I told you in the beginning, preservation may be a problem. So you allow development, you allow usage, several things. Now, as I said, they hold degrees. You might find North Block in a ruin and you want to restore it. You may not say, I can do administration again. I may make it to a museum. And that all over the country you'll find a lot of conservation are made into hotels, are made into museums. But that is not the situation here. This was a functioning building. They claimed it had some problems, the seismic and all that. It's possible to resolve it. I'll give you one example. I'll digress a bit here. One of the very first projects when Intac was formed, I did was I was called to Bangalore because Bangalore chapter said that, look, we have a huge problem. We have this beautiful high court. It's called Attara Kacheri, 130 years old. The government is wanting to demolish it because they want to have many more courts, the usual. The number of courts are required. The building is 130 years old. It's falling apart, etc., etc. So Intact sent me. This is 1985, long time back. And I went and examined, and the engineers came and tried to convince me that we had to do it. I looked at it and said, look, I can have an engineering study done, but I look at it and say, look, this building is not going to fall at all. But we can do studies to show what the seismic problems are. I can see one beam, there's a crack, we can handle it. This building is good enough for the next 100 years. And I gave my report. At that time, civilized people were there. I remember, who was it? Mr. Hegde was the minister there, PWD minister. He listened, he agreed. And today, they're very proud of the fact that Athara Kacheri is still there. And they've got more courts, and it is functioning. And I say, well, there's a perfect example of conservation. So something like Bangalore, Athara Kacheri, which had the same arguments that they're using here. Oh, we need more space, we need to do this, this is a weak structure, there's seismic problems. 1985, we faced the same problem in Athara Kacheri in Bangalore. And we resolved it. And they're happy about it. Today, the new generation of Bangaloreans are very happy that the Athara Kacheri is still in their midst. So I think that degrees and degrees of handling these problems, it could have been handled. I don't see any reason why these buildings had to be emptied out. There are reasons why it needed to be emptied out. But again, as someone has asked, if it is unsafe for administration, is it safe for museums?
People museums, yeah. Yeah, we did discuss that.
Indeed, there's no answer to that, Of course, it's safe for museum, it's safe for the administration. But we know the building well because as Intact did chapter, we've done studies there and all that. It requires a huge amount of maintenance. It's like Central Vista requires a huge amount of maintenance. Maintenance is different from alteration, change, etc. One has to maintain it, maintaining the significance of the heritage. So it could be done. So that removing it, functions from there is not. And let me try to put it this way: would a minister of foreign affairs sit in South Block, or would he sit in one of the donut-shaped modern buildings that they are going to be sitting in? You tell me, psychologically, would the minister of affairs want to conduct his business in South Block?
Yeah.
Would he want to do it in one of those donut-shaped buildings that is being built for him now? And remember the second problem there. You already got a new building, Ministry of External Affairs. They're going to demolish it. It's 5 years
Yeah, that's
old.
strange. It's like
5
5 years old.
years old, built to purpose. Going to be demolished
Yeah.
and going to put him into a donut. I just don't understand it. So obviously, it's inexplicable.
Okay, Professor Menon, if I could have the last two questions to you.
Sure, sure.
One is on quite technical, and of course, another one is for our common viewers. I mean, I will ask that. That's the second question. The first one is, I think we've learned that there would be some 8 stories, and also I mean the idea of the original skyline would also be violated. So how do you really view, and what is the relevance of a skyline? A.
So,
Two, Professor Menon, now it's slowly we understanding that it's becoming an issue of the people. I mean, common, because open spaces, what will happen to those
absolutely.
spaces? So,
You're, you're
so
important.
as I said in the beginning, that this trajectory from the architects to the common people, after all, this is the heritage of the common people. They
Absolutely.
own this heritage. I mean, so
Absolutely.
how do you understand, how should they be linked to this entire, I won't say struggle, but the part of the movement that's getting developed to protect the Central Vista? Yeah.
So let's answer the second question first. People.
Okay.
We know that
Okay.
this is a people's place. This is a democratic space. After these buildings are built, what's going to happen is going to be a security zone. Someone called it a special political zone, SPZ. It'll become a SPZ.
That's
Just
that's an interesting qualification. Yeah.
so why is it going to be a special? Right now, even today, you can't walk to North Block, South Block. There are barriers there, security, because you got all the ministries
Yeah.
there. You can go there to take a selfie.
Yeah.
Space is still there, but it's not like old days. I remember as a youngster, I could cycle up to there and come back. I can't do that anymore. That is what's going to happen to Central Vista now. With all these ministries coming up next to Central Vista, this space will still have trees, still have lawns, will still have water bodies, but it will have
Yeah.
barriers, it will have CCTV, you cannot picnic, you can't loiter, move on, move on, move on, nothing. So common man is going to get hurt. And take a place like Delhi, dense place where a lot of people don't have open space. This is their space. This is where they picnic.
Yeah.
This is where they come to have an ice cream. This is public.
Really, yeah.
Meaning of public place.
Yeah.
Public place is somewhere where you have leisure. Also, public places where you
Yeah.
protest. Public place where you take a selfie. All those things are public places. All that's going to go is now going to become a security place with a barrier because, and quite rightly so, because the security people will come and say, no, people can't come here because our government is here. Terrorists may come. We've had it. So it's become a security place. So in answer to your second question, people are going to be deprived of a very valuable public place by doing this. First question, what you got an 8-story building. Earlier, the trees were the skyline. You could see the sky beyond the trees. Yeah, if you look carefully, maybe you could see Nirman Bhavan, maybe you could see this thing. Inconsequential. Today, after all this, you're going to have a phalanx of buildings. A wall of buildings next to each other, all the way from Vijay Chowk to India Gate. That is going to be the change in skyline. So now it's going to be a hard skyline with this wall on both sides. Earlier, you had a soft skyline. You had trees. They're different. And yet you had buildings. It's not as if you didn't have buildings. And as though so it's a matter of their concession, they say, oh, but it's lower than India Gate. As if they're doing huge favor to the public. They're reducing the height of the building by a few centimeters below India Gate. You see, it's deceitful. It is wrong. That's what the
Okay.
problem
Okay, but I'm provoked to ask last question again.
Sure.
I mean,
You're
last.
provoked enough, so you can go
And
ahead.
so, what do you see in the future? And So, how do you see the future of the Central Vista and the redevelopment? After the pandemic, the Supreme Court has also said no construction is going to happen. But the sinister move is very sinister. So what is the future? I mean, be optimistic and be really practical also.
You see, Central Vista is going to be destroyed. With the 300 plus seats in the parliament, he doesn't even have to ask the parliament. He's doing it. He doesn't have to ask me. For God's sake, who am I? So, okay, you and I are talking because you're asking me a question. He's not going to ask me a question. But, okay, so it's going to be destroyed. But the answer to your question, our cities are going to be destroyed. Because now you realize that urban development is a political plaything. We always knew urban development was a capitalistic plaything. You know, big projects, a lot of scams, a lot of money, and our cities are being destroyed. Even Delhi is being destroyed. Look at your Kidwai Nagar, look at all this happening right now. There was money power. Now political power is going to come in. So the future of cities in India is bleak, my friend, is bleak. And it is made much more stark with this pandemic. It should have gone the other way. We should have made it much more humane, much more human. It's going to be the other way around now, unfortunately.
Well, thanks, Professor Menon. I just remember one of the anecdotes during my student days when I was a student activist in Himachal University, and the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies was being converted into a hotel. We
Yes.
protested, we objected with all our strength that we had. And of course, there was this whole aura like you, people, intellectuals, architects who said, no, no, it shouldn't be handed over to hotel. Today, that Indian Institute of Advanced Studies still remains the Indian Institute. And I wish, I don't know, but I still wish that the Central Vista also remains the Central Vista without the redevelopment. But as you rightly pointed out, the challenges are really, really big, and we all are witnessing that in the day. Thanks, Professor Menon. We'll
Thank
definitely
you.
join
Thank you.
on,
Yes.
so some other day with on this,
We'll walk along Central
maybe,
Vista and
maybe
cry.
with another topic.
We'll cry. We'll walk along Central Vista and cry.
Yeah, because from the Central Vista to maybe urbanism, the kind of aesthetics that we are getting in the urban realm. Thanks a lot, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.